DC, the voice, Alabama Prisoner Profiles. What's going on with y'all, man? Make sure y'all hit that like button, man. Leave a comment. Let me know what's going on, man. Been missing y'all. Trying to do what I have to do for my little family, right? You know, trying to find another full-time gig. Add 2 full-times, you know what I'm saying? That way I can keep my sweet things, you know what I'm saying, at home on her ass, raising my seed, you know, rather than, you know, paying, you know, taking her somewhere, motherfucker getting paid $9.50 an hour to watch her, and I'm not going for that. So I'm gonna be on here when I can until I'm off the streets. So you feel it's not that I don't have time, it's more of a just mental health thing at this point, man. Happy Men's Mental Health Month, by the way. Now today we're going to be covering a piece that highlights the millions spent by the department to settle excessive force lawsuit, man. Y'all see the thumbnail is a play on the song Drug Money by Future, right? And shout out to Beth over at the Alabama Reflector, man. Let's hop right into that right now. The Alabama Department of Corrections agreed to settlements in nearly 100 lawsuits alleging corrections officers left inmates with broken bones and brain damage. State taxpayers are footing the bill. Most of the complaints are handwritten in ballpoint pen and sent from prisons to federal courts through the United States mail. The particulars about the incidents vary, but fear of correctional officers is a common theme. Quote, "I am requesting an emergency transfer before these officers unalive me," unquote, wrote one man from St. Clair Correctional Facility. Quote, "I am more afraid now than I have ever been since I was first incarcerated," unquote, wrote another man from Holman. Damn. The Alabama Department of Corrections has settled over 90 lawsuits alleging correctional officers used excessive force, costing the state millions of dollars. Even as the prison population has declined, use of force incidents in Alabama prisons have soared, and corrections officers involved have not only held on to their jobs, but been promoted. The anatomy of one inmate's allegations against a correctional officer and the aftermath. Who's paying for these settlements? You are. Who's getting the most money from this litigation? Attorneys defending correctional officers. Quote, "Don't let these people unalive me," unquote, wrote one man from Donaldson Correctional Facility. Quote, "I'm scared for my life and that they will say that I unalived myself," unquote. The allegations are from 3 civil rights lawsuits among 124 that the Alabama Department of Corrections has paid to settle since 2020. The vast majority involve complaints of excessive force inside Alabama's violent and overcrowded prisons, according to a review of court records and state financial data. An Alabama Reflector examination found that 124 lawsuits that the department settled in a 5-year period between 2020 and 2025, 94 involved complaints of excessive force. Shit. Other lawsuits allege wrongful deaths and accuse the department staff of failing to protect incarcerated people from violence, including insults and grapefruits, man. The cost of defending lawsuits against individual officers and larger class action cases against the entire department has pushed the department's legal spending over $57 million since 2020. In the last 5 years, the department has spent over $17 million on the legal defense of correctional officers and larger Jesus. Damn. Hold on. Man. 39 million litigating a handful of complex cases against the department, including a lawsuit filed by the United States Department of Justice that we keep hearing about. Data on civil lawsuits and outcomes against other state prison systems is not readily available, but the sheer volume of excessive force cases the department is settling is significant. According to several correctional experts, quote, "That sounds extreme in my experience," unquote, said Steve Sinclair, who retired as Washington's Department of Corrections Secretary in 2021 after a 32-year career in corrections. Quote, "It's pretty routine to have lawsuits for various reasons, and not all of those are legit lawsuits, but certainly not 60 or 80 plus. It's inconceivable to me." The 94 excessive force lawsuits were settled between 2020 and 2024, but resulted from incidents that recurred from the span between 2014 to 2022. and cover 15 of the department's 26 institutions, including maximum, medium, and minimum security facilities. Alleged acts of excessive force resulting in serious injury were documented everywhere from the Loxley Community Work Center, a minimum security facility housing 360 prisoners who work in the community, to death row at Holman Correctional Facility in Atmore, depicting an institutional landscape characterized by subterranean brutality. 45% of the lawsuits detailed injuries so severe that the victims required hospitalization, ranging from lacerations requiring stitches to broken bones, many requiring surgery. Some complaints allege beatings that result in multiple injuries. Medical records submitted in court show one man had both arms broken in an incident involving an officer. Shit. Another man said he suffered broken ribs, broken bones in his back from a staff assault. A third was hospitalized with a broken leg and hand. 19 complaints described traumatic head and brain injuries. Damn. At least 7 cases detailed catastrophic traumas that left the victims permanently disabled or disfigured. The findings are the result of a months-long investigation that included the examination of accounting data obtained from the Alabama Department of Finance, detailing all payments made from the General Liability Trust Fund since 2020, as well as court records connected to the trust fund transactions. The General Liability Trust Fund operates similar to insurance, a $1 million cap per incident. Jesus Christ. Damn, that's some good-ass insurance to cover both the legal defense of state employees and any potential settlement payment. Y'all hear that, families? Make sure, hey, we want $1 million. We starting at $1 million, dead grandma. Hey, they got $1 million to play with per case. I need to highlight that. Y'all hear what they got $1 million to play with, man. That's crazy. Also known as indemnity to plaintiffs. State agencies pay an annual premium to participate. The fund is used for individual plaintiff-filed lawsuits that seek damages. Lawsuits filed against entire state agencies, like class action litigation that seek to change policy, are paid out for the state's general fund. The increased volume of individual lawsuits filed against employees of the department comes as the department is embroiled in several class action lawsuits against the entire system over prison labor and the lack of mental health treatment, as well as ongoing litigation with the United States Department of Justice, which sued the state in December 2020 after concluding that Alabama, quote, failed or refused to correct unconstitutional prison conditions, including the common use of excessive force. A staff member from the United States Attorney's Office in Alabama's Northern District said the lawsuit remains ongoing at this time, but would not provide any further details. The department and the Alabama Attorney General's office continue to deny the state's prisons problems amount to systematic constitutional violations, but lawyers for state employees are routinely using public dollars to quietly pay out dozens of lawsuit settlements. The amounts determined in confidential settlement negotiations or mediation, not reported in court filings, and outside stakeholder scrutiny, right? So who they was paid a settlement that will not be disclosed, like, so nobody know but these people. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, get out, get your bread, if it's, if you got fucked up, but if you trying to really make some change or shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, y'all can't accept, 500,000, 100, 2, 3, 70,000. You know what I'm saying? If you were going for change, if your goal was for change, that's, that's kind of sell-outy to me, but you feel me? Listen, man. While settlements are not an admission of liability, these lawsuits were filed over the same conditions that led the Department of Justice to sue the state. Overcrowding, understaffing, inadequate facilities, and, quote, an excessive amount of violence, sexual abuse, and prisoner deaths. Y'all know that from the intro, right? The Department of Justice began investigating 13 Alabama prisons for men 2016, 2019, released the findings, blah, blah, blah. We know it's fucked up. Quote, all too often correctional officers use force in the absence of a physical threat while making no effort to de-escalate tense situations. Man, The department stated in its findings, such uses of force heighten tensions in already violent and overcrowded prisons. Correctional officers also use force as a form of retribution for the sole purpose of inflicting pain, unquote. In response to questions about the surge in excessive force lawsuits and settlements, a department spokesperson pointed out to the DOJ, quote, most are piggybacking off the allegations contained in the department findings, which the department adamantly denies, wrote the department spokesperson Kelly Betts. Kelly. Betts also wrote that the department does not comment on pending litigation we got that, and referred questions to the phone number that don't nobody answer and shit. Okay, move it on. The Attorney General's office did not respond, of course. For decades, the department had no internal grievance process for people in prison to file complaints over officer abuse or misconduct. Didn't know that. Without proper oversight inside the prisons, lawsuits can serve as backstop for accountability. Many legal rights and protections for people in prison have been put in place by the courts, and some of these cases started out as complaints from prisoners themselves. Everything from the right to send and receive mail to the right to basic medical care are the result of litigation, said one man who has filed lawsuits against the department officers in the past and asked to withhold his name out of fear of reprisal. Smart man. Quote, there's really no bottom to how badly a state will treat prisoners without intervention and oversight of the courts, he said. Facts. Quote, filing a lawsuit seeking damages is often the only meaningful way to challenge mistreatment in prison, unquote. The 94 excessive force complaints that resulted in settlement payments to victims do not represent the total lawsuits filed against the department officers, many of which are dismissed by the courts. Quote, these are probably the most egregious examples of what really is a culture of impunity and violation of people's rights, said David Jespas, an attorney who has represented incarcerated people in excessive force cases against department officers. The complaints detail incidents occurring in various parts of the prisons, open dorms, individual cells, but also prison barbershops, chow halls, healthcare units, and bathrooms. Basically, where you act up, that's where you're getting fucked up at. 45% of complainants said officers beat them while they were handcuffed. Damn, that's some whole ass shit, man. 27% alleged the excessive use of chemical spray, 2 factors cited in DOJ's findings. The state's highest security and most overcrowded prisons generated the most lawsuits in the time period examined. Donaldson Correctional Facility in Vesper topped the list, with 25 excessive force lawsuits ending the settlement, followed by Holman, St. Clair, Limestone, and Bibb. Some of the complaints include shocking and gruesome details. For example, 2018, an assault at Ventress. The complainant stated an officer handcuffed the victim behind his back, then struck him from behind, quote, breaking his jaw in 2 places, seeing a large portion of his jawbone between his teeth and spraying Kool-Aid all over the wall, unquote. Man, that might get this demonetized. The Department of Corrections settled the lawsuit for $90,000. Is your jaw worth $90,000? Let me know some. And according to court documents, terminated the officer who assaulted the man. Well, that's good, because he really did too much. They like, you really did too much. You know what I'm saying? 2019 incident at Limestone. The complaint stated an officer placed the victim in a takedown position known to cause, quote, excruciating pain in the shoulders. Then another officer kicked his legs, causing him to fall and strike his head on the floor. What they say, a takedown position, right, that they teach at the damn academy. You know what I'm saying? Part of the curriculum type shit, right? Standard. Known to cause excruciating pain. Officers then sprayed him with mace, kicked him, and punched him. The man suffered a traumatic brain injury, permanent hearing loss, numerous contusions, according to the complaint. The plaintiff was released from prison and died of an overdose in 2023, according to court documents. The department settled the lawsuit with his mother for $9,000. Are you kidding? Man, I don't want to be disrespectful, but are you a dope fiend? I'm sorry. Quote, 2018 assault at Staten. The complainant stated 2 officers sprayed the victim with pepper spray, beat him with batons, kicked and stomped him. The man was flown to a hospital in critical condition where he is diagnosed with bleeding in the brain, multiple fractures to his ribs, face, head, neck, and damage to his lungs. The man is now in a long-term VA hospital, quote, bedridden, unable to verbally communicate, and minimally conscious. The department settled the lawsuit filed by this man's family for $55,000. 5 settlements stem from a raid at Holman Prison in 2016 by the department's Correctional Emergency Response or CERT team. According to the complaints, CERT members charged into the dorm where the men were inside sleeping, shouting, and beating men with batons. At least one man was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. The settlements totaled $13,500. 2 years later, another incident involving CERT at Holman led to an excessive force lawsuit by a man who uses a wheelchair. The man hand-wrote in his complaint that one officer slapped him, another hit him in the head with his baton. Quote, "That blow busted my head and caused me to fall out of my wheelchair flat on the floor face down," he wrote. "Damn, y'all victimizing the wheelchair folks." Quote, "They kicked and stomped on me so viciously until I defecated on myself. I was knocked out unconscious." His lawsuit ended in $7,000 settlement. Again, prisoners injured during medical event. At least half a dozen complaints allege that officers used excessive force on incarcerated men who were in need of mental health or medical attention, including 2 filed by men who said they were beaten while having a seizure. One such complaint accused officers of beating a man with batons while he was suffering an epileptic seizure in the infirmary, quote, "strapped or handcuffed to a gurney," unquote. When his seizure was over, after the beating stopped, officers accused the man of using drugs, which he denied, according to the complaint. They then, quote, "chained plaintiff to a wall as he continued to bleed and exhibit clear epileptic symptoms," unquote. The incarcerated man presented witness statements from other prisoners and prison staff to support his claim. Officers argued their use of force was justified. The plaintiff was violent and unrestrained. A federal judge denied the officers' motions to dismiss the case. Quote, "The court finds that a reasonable jury would have difficulty not concluding that prison officers beating a fully restrained, possibly unconscious prisoner who had just suffered an epileptic seizure offends contemporary standards of decency." Thank you, Judge. No shit. United States District Judge Karen Owen Beaudry wrote, "The department settled the lawsuit for $30,000. Quote, "Excessive force should always be treated like a big deal," unquote, said former Washington Department of Corrections Secretary Steve Sinclair. Quote, "If you tolerate or minimize it, that's what builds a horrible culture, and you shouldn't have to wait for a court to tell you." Damn straight. You know what I'm saying? Niggas always say this shit after they retire and shit. Now you see the light, you know what I'm saying? Because you see your light at the end of your tunnel coming, and you know where the fuck you going, gang. Mounting cases, mounting costs. A spike in lawsuits filed against individual officers began in 2020. In the 5 years before that, the department typically filed fewer than 20 claims per year to the General Liability Trust Fund, according to records provided by the Department of Finance. In 2020, number of claims ticked up to 33, then 58 in 2021. In 2022, facing a surge of lawsuits against officers, the Alabama Department of Corrections filed 194 liability claims. That shit doubled in a year, gang. Then filed 235 in 2023. Gang. Complete data for 2024 is not yet available. Corrections claims to General Liability Trust Fund surged amid mounting lawsuits. Before 2020, the department generally filed fewer than 20 claims a year to the General Liability Trust Fund, a kind of insurance for state agencies. The number of claims since skyrocketed. The flood of lawsuits caused the department spending from the General Liability Trust Fund to quadruple. Between 15 and 19, the department accounted for $2.9 million in legal expenses and settlement payments from the fund. In the following 5 years, between 2020 and 2024, the department utilized $17 million from the General Liability Trust Fund, more than any other state department. Legal expenses for the defense of officers named in the lawsuits amounted to double the amount of paid settlements. Between 2020 and 2024, payments to private attorneys who were hired to represent department employees topped $12 million, $13 million in that 5-year period. While indemnity or settlement payments to plaintiffs accounted for just $4.4 million. Plaintiffs alleging excessive force received a total of $1.7 million with a median settlement of just $8,000. These figures represent only a fraction of the department's overall legal spending since 2020. Legal payments to outside attorneys and law firms for the department's defense and class action cases amount to over $39.7 million paid out of the state's general fund budget, according to records available in the Open Alabama checkbook database maintained by the Department of Finance. Combined with transactions from the state's liability trust fund, the department has spent over $57 million on legal services since 2020. By comparison, the Alabama Attorney General's Office general fund budget this year is about $13.7 million. I think it's fair to ask, quote, how much is too much? Said Representative Chris England D. Tuscaloosa, a member of the state's Joint Prison Oversight Committee and frequent critic of prison conditions and department spending. Quote, it's hard to imagine that we were intending to create a fund that just allows us to be in perpetual state of lawsuits forever. When does the state of Alabama start demanding results from these lawsuits? Niggas been demanding results. Unquote. I'm gonna spark up on that outro, man, on Lil Bro. So, first of all, y'all let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section, right? We got a lot to unpack. So the state would rather spend tens of millions every year selling these lawsuits, defending correctional officers' misconduct, than actually putting forth the effort to fix the issues that lead to said misconduct, man. Jesus. That money could be put to good use fixing the damn department, man. Hell, they're so greedy, you would think they'd be more motivated to stop the bullshit so they wouldn't have to pay out all this money and they could just pocket that shit. You know what I'm saying? The high ranking, they could just pocket that shit or give themselves more raises. You know what I'm saying? But no, we got to have an unlimited lawsuit fund to settle. You know, that's crazy. That's wild. If they'll kick this out for lawsuits, imagine what they're taking out of the cookie jar, man. Craziness. And the fact that these officers are now only the majority are able to hold on to jobs, much less be promoted while whooping ass and costing the state taxpayer money, is egregious, man. When these officers get popped for excessive force, especially the veterans, they're always inmates up on the post like, oh man, they finally got old officer such and such. Like, what the hell do you mean finally? It's because they've been whooping shit, been terrorizing shit in handcuffs and abuse of that nature for a long time, working there. That's how you work your way up the ladder, to be honest, in most departments in the country, by whooping ass and demonstrating that you can, you know what I'm saying, be one of the good old boys and lie for your fellow officers and shit of that nature. You know what I'm saying? It's after the state is already settled 30 plus lawsuits that they're involved in, you know what I'm saying, that they finally decide to scapegoat them now that the feds have a microscope up their ass, you know what I'm saying, and they're resisting the feds every step of the way. Never seen nothing like it, man. Alabama, you veterans really need to chill and let the quote-unquote new knuckle-dragging COs make their bones, if that's what you want to call it, because there's no better scapegoat, it seems, when the feds come than that older veteran officer that's done worked his way up whooping ass, done cost them millions in lawsuit settlements, man. They figured, let me go ahead and scapegoat, bruh. We need to get him out of here anyway. He costing us money every year. To the lawyers raking that shit in, man, I know they're just caking the fuck up by, you know, what means is y'all will hear in a future episode about a firm using AI for a damn filing and a federal judge catching that shit in court. But yeah, man, they running that shit up crazy. And us taxpayers footing the bill. You listen to this damn video, you footing the bill if you live in Alabama, man. I feel like most citizens that, you know, they accept a portion of their state taxes goes to the prison industry, but I don't think even your average good old boy relishes in the fact that their hard-earned money is going to defend some yeehaw correctional officer that's abused an inmate, man. I don't even think they with there. They might not, I don't think they, you know what I'm saying? Now, maybe I'm wrong. Y'all let me know in the comment section. Niggas is getting whooped on the way home at work releases, man. That's really crazy. Like, they know you really can't do nothing at that point because what you want to, I mean, if you are permanent there or something like that, what you want to go back to a lower level of hell while you're, you know what I'm saying? You want to go back to that level 4 or 5 camp versus the ironic threshold of hell at this work center, you know what I'm saying? Tough situation to be in for an inmate. Millions defending these cases, man, paying off families. Y'all families, hey, we need more than that, gang. And we'll take this to track. Y'all gotta be 8,000, 9,000, 30. That's crazy, man. How much is your family member's life worth to you? Y'all let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section, man. Like, sub, share, donate to the Cash App and the PayPal if you mess with the channel, man. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook for updates. DC the Boys, Alabama Prisoner Profiles, out the gate, man.